Well, welcome back to the Ashes debrief. We've had another ridiculous day of cricket today. Australia finished the day 4 for none. Yes, 4 for none. They are batting for the third innings of this test match. I've got Guha, Dan Norcross alongside me. The only person to rock the MCG today was Ish in Robbie Williams' pink.
I stole it out of the museum. He wore it for the AFL Grand Final.
Guys, we've got to talk about it. England won the toss. They chose to bowl. They bowled Australia out for 152. Everybody got excited. England 110 all out, 42 behind. Now they're 46 behind. Dan, what a silly day.
It was absolutely nuts, wasn't it? And we were prepared for it because people keep telling us what happens at Melbourne ever since that disastrous game in 2017 when England were here and it was a bore draw. They've tried to make it more exciting. This was perhaps a bit too exciting, wasn't it? 20 wickets, it was spicy, it encouraged you to pitch it up, bowl it full, let the pitch do all the work. And the bowlers who did that had a lot of success. The bowler, Bryden Castle, didn't do that, didn't. And at the moment, that's the difference between the two teams.
95,000 people packed into the MCG, record crowd, day one here at the G on Boxing Day. And it's not often you have 20 wickets in a day and you feel shortchanged as a spectator because not even 80 overs were bowled.
Well, we've got a real funny thing now because 20 wickets in the day. There was 3 new balls today. We didn't even have 80 overs in the day. So much happened. We might not get to day 3. It's sold out on day 3 here. 10 millimetres of grass has been left on the pitch. The first question is that too much? Probably
a bit too much if you want to see a game go to day 3 of a series. I just feel for Cricket Australia, I feel for Victorian cricket, that they won't see that probably go into late in day 3. Who knows if we'll even get a day 3. So look, it was so heavily in favour of the bowlers. I don't mind that as a pace bowler, as a seam bowler myself, but when it's so far weighted in one favour of the bowlers or the batters, that's where you have to really question the state of the pitch.
Dan, questioning the state of the pitch, Australia seem to get more out of the surface than England. Are they just better?
Well, there's a bit of that, isn't there? I mean, when you look at the way Scott Boland bowls, he bashes out of length time after time after time. Michael Neser, perfect for these conditions. You're sort of wondering why Matt Potts didn't play. You're also thinking, oh, Jimmy Anderson, wouldn't it have been lovely?
Oh, he's 49.
Stuart Broad roll him out the commentary box onto the pitch.
He's the captain of Lancashire. He could still do a job. Look, it was so tricky to bat that when Harry Brook came charging at his first ball, actually we all went, good tactic. You know, the rest of this series we go, put it away, show some intelligence. But actually today, that was the intelligent approach, and he was top scorer today because that's what you had to do. You had to try and get the Aussies off their lengths. The Aussies didn't have to do that quite as much because some of England, well, especially Bryden Castle, he just didn't bash out that length, did he? And so, you know, to let Michael Neser get away with 35 runs, that sort of is the difference between the two teams.
You just have to look at the difference in the pitch maps, and it's been like that all the way through the series. When you look at the Australian bowlers, that relentless line and length is pretty much in the same circular dot on the pitch, whereas for England, it's sort of, even though the grouping was better, it was still a little bit too full, a little bit too short, a little bit in the middle to the side. You know, it wasn't exactly on that right spot time after time, and you just let the pitch do the talking on a surface like this.
So you were a seam bowler for England, World Cup winner, played Ashes series. Why are England struggling to do that here in Australia?
I think sometimes it's the opposition and the bravery you have to pitch that ball up. Travis Head played a ridiculous shot today when I think it was Bryden Castle pitched the ball up. You played it through the cover region and then you're going, oh, okay, I'm probably going to settle my length back a bit more. So I think perhaps that is partly the reason. Also, Australia, their experience of playing on these pitches time after time after time, they know that it's not a floaty full length, it's a bang it into the pitch fuller length on these surfaces. I look back to Adelaide, everyone knows here, I've been coming here for a while, and everyone knows here you have to bowl a fuller length. Josh Hazlewood is the master of the Adelaide surface. But England still, they couldn't quite get that length right often enough. They managed to find it in the second innings. But for me, it is partly the skill levels, but it's also the mindset and the courage you need to have to pitch that ball up without, you know, the batter kind of driving you down the ground, which you don't mind sometimes here.
Can I do a shout out though to Gus Atkinson, because he was dropped after the second test, and it was a bit of a difficult one for him because remember Stokes saying, my change room is no place for weak men. Now one guy was dropped, so it kind of felt like, do you mean me? And it was almost like because he played an appalling shot that got himself caught at mid-wicket. Today, he'd have had that pressure on him, and he actually did bash out a good length. I mean, he was going at 1 and a bit and over. He kept real control with the new ball. Cars, on the other hand, went 4 overs for like 25, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, you know, and then you got Josh Tongue comes into bowl, and he bowls that full length. And what's frustrating, I think, is you're sort of looking at this going, well, if all 3 of you could do that, then maybe Australia would have got 120 instead. I mean, still though, that doesn't like detract from Isha's point, which is that we shouldn't be coming to a Boxing Day Test match going, well, I think 125 is par, because that is a little bit strange.
You're absolutely right, Dan. Going back to those lengths, Gus Atkinson does bowl a naturally fuller length, where he pitches the ball up and he can get extra bounce off that length too, which is why I think this pitch suits him. I think it would have been explained to him that they were just trying to rotate through the quick bowlers through the series, but he does get his opportunity here again, and I actually think he was quite unlucky in those first 2 test matches. I thought he bowled really well without much luck to get the wicket, so for him to come in here and do well, I think was, you know, would have given him so much confidence. Also the occasion, Ben Stokes has won the toss, he's sent Australia in, but then there's the expectation on the bowling unit, and there's no real kind of leader in that unit apart from Ben Stokes. You think about Stuart Broad, Jimmy Anderson, Jofra Archer was becoming that leader. So Gus Atkinson really had to step up today, and he bowled really beautifully.
And he's not a natural showman, is he? I mean, I love him dearly, but his body language is always a little bit anxious.
He comes across very shy.
Yeah, he's looking down at the ground as he comes back. So, look, he doesn't have that natural charisma of the leader of the attack. But he really did plug away today, and he showed the way to bowl. Unfortunately, he showed Australia the way to bowl, and they did it just that little bit better.
Well, Australia, sorry, I'm going to go on to Josh Tongue. I had a joke, I've messed it up.
Was it a tongue teaser?
It was.
I'm licking my lips waiting for
It
this
was.
one.
I said Josh Tongue, he gave Australia a licking today, didn't he? He got 5 for, he didn't get the 3rd new ball. We were all crying for him, he was on a hat-trick.
Can I briefly sound off about this, right? Because I am a big defender of Ben Stokes' captaincy. I love him to bits. But how could you miss the memo, right? So Josh Tongue is on a hat-trick. He'd taken the last 2 wickets of the Australian first innings, and coming out to bat was Scott Boland, who was the man who was the second part of that hat-trick, or would-be hat-trick, right? So Scott Boland was on a king pair. Never before in Test cricket has anybody been part of a hat-trick, like twice, and to get a king pair twice. Because of course it can't really happen, because normally, you know, you can imagine the circumstances. It has to be precisely this. You've got to get the last guy out, and then that person's got to come out and night watch, right? It never happens. And so Tongue had that chance, and instead he goes, well, these are the plans, we give it to Gus. And like then, all of us, our hearts saying, just give us something, right? The Ashes is gone, give us something utterly crazy.
He's got a lot on his plate, Dan.
He has, but couldn't someone have just sent a memo through?
I want to talk about England as a whole. Isha, you've played in Australia, you've been part of teams that have been successful and not successful. There seems to be a hangover over this England team. You know, Ben Duckett's been in the press, Noosa's been in the press. A literal hangover. Noosa's been in the press. It was Christmas Day yesterday, it's Boxing Day today. Has the occasion today just got a little bit too much for England, or have they just been outplayed again?
No, I think you've got to think about who you're coming up against. This is an Australian side who has plenty of experience. We talked about it ahead of the series, and some people joked about the age of the team. You know, there's 2 bowlers at 35 years of age and 1 at 36. Mitch Stark has been outstanding, 24 wickets in the series now. Scott, they all bowl in that right channel, that right line of length, and they do it time and time again, and they have done for years in state cricket, in Test cricket. And the players that have come in have done a job, and what Australia have been able to do is that they've adapted much better than England to these conditions, and I think you're able to do that when you play in these conditions all the time. I feel like that's where they've been one step ahead of England. You know, they lost Nathan Lyon in the last test, but that didn't worry them. They went to their B, their C plan. Usman Khawaja had to come in at the last second because he has the experience of knowing what to do in that situation. He was able to do it. They didn't have Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood. Mitch Stark stepped up, Brendan Doggett, Michael
She can
Neeson.
go on forever.
I can go on forever. And that's one thing that I think is the biggest difference between Australia and England. England have shown plenty of fight and determination. When there's 2% chance of England winning, they come out and they do well because they're under Ben Stokes, who has that unbelievable fight. But it's when they've been ahead in the game where they haven't been ruthless enough. And for me, that's where I think actually they did quite well in the afternoon session today to keep their foot on the throat of Australia. They have let them back in, but that has been partly because of Australia's skill and relentlessness under pressure.
A couple of things here though. Let's not all be all gloom and doom about this test, right? Australia are 46 ahead, okay? So they're not miles ahead. It's not like they were at Adelaide, Brisbane, for example.
Well, I think that's why Harry Brook played the way he did today as well.
He had to, and he did it really, really well. A lot of the wickets that fell for England were to really good balls. There were a couple, look, if we're going to be picky, Ben Duckett's shot was horrible, playing in front of his body. It's not good, but the bat shouldn't be there. Jamie Smith, I know the ball cut back a touch, but you cannot be standing there. You've got to get a stride in. He didn't get a stride in. His defensive technique is poor. He's been out like that quite a few times now between bat and pad. But for the most part, there wasn't a huge amount between the two teams. And I want to give us all hope, right? I know you'll glaze over now because it's history. 1977 centenary test match at this very ground, right? Big occasion. Australia bowled out for 138 on the first day. England, bowled out for 95, conceding a lead of 43, today 42. Second innings, Australia got 419, England got 417. So the pitch, we've been told, does flatten out a bit. And maybe what's happened is that England have got through their innings quickly enough for the pitch still to be manky enough for the first couple of sessions tomorrow,
okay, I like your
for England
thinking.
to bowl out Australia cheaply enough for the pitch to flatten out.
You really are clutching there.
Well, I am clutching, but look, it's been a long tour.
It has been a very long time. I want to talk about England's batters just before we get to the Ask Me Anything. England's batters seem to be so good on flat surfaces, but as soon as the ball does anything, England struggle. Is that a technique thing?
I don't think it's just England that struggle.
It's fair. Australia were bowled out for 152.
I do think that Australia have some vulnerabilities as well. It's just their bowling attack have been so good. Australia, I think, in the last couple of years have been bowled out in the first 50 overs on quite a few occasions. So, and that's when the pitch is doing a little bit more. So I think. Look, England have done it far too many times. I think in this Bazball era where they look to be positive and aggressive and it can go one way or the other. I do think that they need to look at their techniques and how they play. We've seen from Ben Stokes, Will Jacks at times in the last couple of test matches they can play a good test match knock. So look, I don't think it's just the England team, but okay, it looks like it is on this sort of surface today because they are flat track bullies and we have seen that so many times with Bazball.
I mean, it's interesting to note that Will Jacks came charging at his first ball. Now, when you've seen the way Will Jacks has batted, especially with his captain there has been studious in defence, hasn't it? He's been almost like trying to show teacher, I can do it, I can do this.
Show teacher.
Well, he has, hasn't he? But today,
Pick me for the next one.
It was like, oh yeah, this pitch is actually so horrible. I'm going to have to go into one-day mode. So, look, I'm not going to criticise their batting today, apart from the couple I've outlined for technical issues.
Yeah.
I thought for the most part it was such a horrifying thing to have to bat on that pitch that you had to play riskily. Harry Brook is so good. He hit a startling six today, a truly amazing shot. Just a whippy bottom hand off Nisa. That shows he's the top scorer today with 41.
Yeah.
He was the best batter on show. So, look, from an English point of view, I am going to big up the positives because there have been too many negatives for the last 5 weeks and it's getting me down.
Right, it's that time of the show where you can scan the QR code on your screen and ask me anything Ashes related. Mark in Blackpool, why have the ECB not got Broad and Anderson coaching this group?
It's a very good question.
Anderson's doing pre-season.
Do they want to?
Anderson's doing pre-season. Broad's coached South Africa for a day as a consultant.
He's having a lovely time in the commentary box. So does he? Does he want to actually go through all that?
Tim Southey came and supported the team, didn't he, ahead of this series, and then he's away with franchise cricket now. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely have them involved. There's no question of that. Guys that have played here in different series, who have the ability to bowl that relentless line and length. Just their kind of attitude to to quick bowling in the nets. You know, just those little different pointers that you can get from two very successful bowlers in Test cricket. I think it would be a good move.
Can I make one suggestion though? That it's very rare to have a bowling coach who actually thinks he should be in the team himself. And if you had Jimmy Anderson as your bowling coach, he would actually just be saying to Brendan,
He just put his whites on.
You pick
Actually,
me.
bowl a
You
short
pick me,
left.
yeah.
Bowl short,
me.
bowl rubbish, get me in.
I mean, Stuart Broad maybe, because I think he's comfortable with retirement, but I'm not sure Lancashire's captain doesn't think he should be in the side.
Well, Dan, as the sun finally sets behind you and I'm no longer actually crying into both of your faces, it wasn't the cricket, it was the sun, I promise. We'll be back tomorrow for the Ashes debrief. Who knows, the game might be over, or if you're Dan Norcross and there's hope, we'll still be here on day 5. The highlights, they'll be around at 5 p.m. on the iPlayer. We'll see you tomorrow.